A thought. Empathy is not simply a matter of trying to imagine what others are going through, but having the will to master enough courage to do something about it. It is, in a way, empathy is a predicate to hope. Cornell West. I don't own that. My word today, teaching is a work of art. Do the good ones really finish last? So my work today is around empathy and teacher effectiveness. The two measures that I looked at were based on one was based on the tripod student survey. I know it's not a bad word, that the students take in DCPS twice a year, based on how students feel about their homeroom teachers. This is for homeroom teachers. The particular component that I looked at to measure empathy was the care component. There are 7 C's in the framework. One of the C's is care. That's the one I looked at to measure empathy. So there are 3 items on that survey in the care component. Those are the 3 questions that students are asked to answer. The responses, their choices are on a Likert scale. Looks like, sometimes, almost always, never always, all those kind of silly ways that they have students answer these questions. But when they are aggregated, they come on a 4-point scale at the end. I then looked at the essential practices, which is currently part of our evaluation process as the impact evaluation tool, and I looked at what we call essential practice 1. That one is seen as the basis for most of the work that we do, because it's around student community, building the community, and student engagement. So the culture in your class, which do students feel like you are invested and they are in a safe place. So again, that one of all the EPs was most aligned to measuring empathy and the teacher's ability to import that among their students. So here are some of the elements from that essential practice 1, some of the items that when observers come into a teacher's room, what they would like to see them doing, what they expect, and how they are rated. This too is rated on a 4-point scale, from 1 to 4, 4 being highly effective and 3 being effective. We're not interested in 1 or 2. My rationale for this study: when I look at DCPS stats around retention of teachers, teacher effectiveness, and the fact that they purport to have happy teachers who want to stay here, notice that the data states that there are very high percentages of teachers who stay here and they're highly effective. However, in the community of teachers, who I am a part of as a special education teacher, I forgot to mention that, we don't seem to feel that way. So the data is in direct conflict with the people who they're reporting the data about. And so I wanted to take a look at what was that piece. And I know among teachers, we feel like the system has trouble showing empathy for us as teachers. And so if we were to rate the system, would we rate the system as effective or highly effective? And so I took that, kind of turned it on its ear and said, well, let's see what happens in the classroom, the part that we do have some control of as teachers, and what happens when we look at that same care component. How do our students feel, and then are we rated according to that? So what do the researchers say? So the researchers say that if students feel that teachers care, they're more willing to perform. And what does that willingness look like? What does that look like? It means they come to class. I mean, it means that they get their work done. It means when an observer walks into the room, they know how to act. That's what that means. So when an observer comes in the room and they're looking for that EP1, what the data is, what I wanted to examine about the data is if students feel like you care as a teacher, what happens when someone walks in the room and how is that looked at? So I had the benefit of getting information from several sources, one being teachers themselves. I requested data from 20 teachers. The data very personal data for teachers that I requested was their survey results from the tripod survey and their EP final score. So I could disaggregate the care component and the EP1 component. Additionally, I looked at the observers from those schools. And there were 2 observers, an AP and a principal, and talked to them about what they expect to look for when they go into the room looking for empathy around that care and EP1. Those were informal interviews, and I just wanted to get a feel for what they were going to say. They're not included in my data. So here we are. Notice that I have the teachers coded red, blue, and green. Of the 20 that I requested data from, and 20 who all agreed, only 17 actually returned the data. And understandably, it can be difficult for some people to share this data. So the data's there, the care component, and then their EP scores are there. And what did I find? So what I found was that teachers who were rated as highly effective, meaning getting a 3 or 4 score or higher on the care component of the tripod survey, also were seen as highly effective or effective on the EP1 portion of the impact by their observers. Inversely, teachers who did not make that mark, who were more ineffective or developing on the care component, were also rated in the same range by their observers. Now that was an interesting finding for me. I didn't expect to find that. It's really quite interesting how those 2 components really are correlated. I had the serendipitous benefit of running into one of the founders of CAST and Tripod in another part of my life with WTU. And I asked him a question because he was there, and I said, I need you because I'm working on with one of your tools. And I asked him, what was the intent of these 7 C's? What did you expect observers to do with that data? And he clearly said, we expect them to use it to make teachers better. And I said, well, what would you think if I tell you that's not how we use it? And he just stood there and said, I don't really know what to do about that. And I said, well, think about it and I'll come back. So my recommendations, if we are really connecting care, disguised or renamed empathy, and expecting our teachers to be able to comport that in our classroom as a baseline. In EP1, we see that as a baseline. Then truly we need to be producing some really good PD around that. DCPS has moved into SEL, which is social emotional learning component, where they want teachers to really work with that piece, which shows really empathy and how you work with students around who they are, how they feel. Then there needs to be PD around that. We also expect that building administrators should model the same empathy they expect teachers to impart upon their children. And who they should model that with are us, the teachers, because children are always looking. And so if we want teachers to be able to impart that on their children, then we should see it. And lastly, I recommend that teachers' voice be part of the decision making around how those 7 components are dealt with once the results come out at the beginning of the year, because the students do take that survey twice. So when we get the results in the fall, that teachers be part of the task force to make some arrangements in the school to actually address what those C's are saying, so that with the second administration, there is teacher voice in whatever actionable steps are done. So this has also inspired some future study. I'd like to see Because the intent here is to, since the intent is to increase improve teacher processing and teacher work, and essentially what we want to do is student achievement, then I want to extend this research to actually look at student achievement as a result. So align it with the task goals